Hello fellow audio nerds, I'm Steph and this is Major Hi-Fi. I remember the first time I heard a pair of Grado headphones, and the moment sticks out in my mind because they have such a unique quality to them. I couldn't really put my finger on it at the time, but they really did just have a different kind of sound that was also aesthetically pleasing. Well, this week I got a chance to get my hands on one of their new limited edition headphones, the limited edition GH4. So, for $5.50, what can you expect from these cans? Well, let's go back in time. I'll share with you my first impressions, and then I will meet you right back here for my overall thoughts. Alright, here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to my place. So today I've got with me the Grado GH4 Limited Edition. So, let's see what's inside the box here. Alright, so as you'll see here, it's a pretty simple package. It's really just the headphones and, the quarter-inch adapter here. That said, let's get into the design of these because, wow, they are really pretty. Now, the headband is kind of the same sort of headband design as all the Grado stuff. It's very simple. There's not a whole lot of padding on it. This one is coated in a really soft leather material, but you can really see the stitching along the top and underneath, and it's just really kind of has that like vintage charm, I guess. But then the headband sort of attaches to these plastic pieces indicating left and right, obviously, but these then attach to the piece of metal here, and these are how you sort of like extend the headphones for changing the size and stuff. These sort of like plastic pieces remain still and kind of let the ear cups turn totally however you want them to turn. So they kind of have a little bit of versatility in that regard. They can't really rock at all. The headband is pretty flexible though, and it seems like it will work for a wide variety of head sizes. Putting them on here, I mean, the headphones are remarkably light, and it sort of, I think, for me anyway, makes up for the fact that there's not much padding on the actual headband, because you don't really need any padding. They're so light. As for the ear cups, the quality that makes the GH4 and the GH3 special and why they're a limited edition is that they're made of Norwegian pine, as opposed to some of the other ones, the GH1 and 2, which were maple and cocobolo. I don't know that wood, but anyway, it's they were made of a different kind of wood. Now, the idea with the pine is that it's supposed to create kind of a warmer tonality. I'm really excited to give these a listen to see kind of how that comes across, but regardless of any of that, they are really gorgeous. So if you know anything about Grado, if you have experienced Grados before, of course, the cable is always pretty much the same. This cable is a little bit bulky for my taste, but that said, it does feel really durable. The connectors feel strong, and it's a pretty good length. But this is sort of just what you're gonna get when you get a Grado headphone, so it's one of those unnegotiable things. Anywho, without further ado, I am really excited to get into the sound profile of these, because very interested to see how that pine kind of influences the sound. Alright, I was just listening to the song Roll With The Punches by Dawes, and the kick drum in that song definitely had a sense of tightness and clarity, lots of spaciousness around it. That said, it didn't have as much power level-wise. It did still have a nice sense of like impact in the groove and emotionally, because there's just a real sense of quickness in the low end here, and so every time the kick would hit, you could sort of like feel it really move. That said, it wasn't as loud level-wise. Kind of interesting. Wow, I was just listening to the song When It Was Wrong by the California Honey Drops. And I really like the mid-range on these. Sort of the mid-rangey drum sounds, the horns, the guitar, the organ, all sort of came through with a lot of harmonic complexity, and thus sort of had a sense of realism. That said, there's still a sense of character here that I'm trying to continue to put my finger on. So I'll definitely try and be more articulate about it with my overall thoughts. But in terms of how the mid-range responds dynamically, and then just in terms of its fullness, it's really, really fun, especially with that song, which has like a lot of different instruments going on, and they all kind of have a lot of moving parts. The bass feels full and has a lot of room around it, and it feels really nicely separated from kind of the other guitars and other kind of low, mid, rich stuff. It definitely seems to kind of have a nice sense of separation as a whole in the mid-range. That said, the vocal sat a little bit differently in the mix than usual. It sort of felt like it took a step forward toward me, and it also sort of, I heard more of like the throat of the vocal than the like chest of it. So just sort of tonally, it sort of seems to lean a little bit toward the high mids. Okay, yeah, I was just listening to the song Quizás, Quizás, Quizás by Pink Martini. The high frequencies of these are super aesthetically pleasing. I'm definitely getting a lot of texture from the shaker, from the guiro, from the bongos, from the strings, from the horns. Like, there's a lot of textural complexity there. That said, it definitely doesn't sound super accurate in the high end. I'll try and be more specific about it as time goes on and sort of analyze what's going on there. But it has a little bit of like character to it, really, in the high end. I am getting a really nice sense of air from her vocal, and sort of overall, there's kind of a nice sense of air over everything. All right, I was just listening to the song "Cleva" by Erica by Erykah Badu, and I really am getting a nice sense of kind of height with these headphones. The bass and the kick feel solidly at the bottom. This contrasts really nicely with the hi-hat and the vocal, which have a nice sense of air to them and are more across the top of the vertical domain. Likewise, there's a really nice sense of contrast with the depth. The vibraphone, for example, contrasts really well with the vocal, which feels really close to the vibraphone. You really hear a sense of room with it, and it feels further back in space in that room. Also, the sense of width feels really expansive, and that's something I get a lot from Grados in general, and so I'm not too surprised by it. But it is worth saying that the sense of width is really well done and really beautiful sounding. Anywho, I'm really excited to continue listening to these, so I will meet you back at the Major Hi-Fi office with my overall thoughts. Alright, here we go. Overall, the low frequencies of the GH4 are sort of modest in their level. However, they do have a sense of real dynamic impact and dynamic liveliness that makes the lows come across in a tight and punchy way. Additionally, they have a sense of evenness and kind of naturalness to their sound. I wouldn't necessarily describe it as neutral, and in fact, it's sort of hard to describe what this character is, although perhaps it's the sense of warmth that Grado describes with the pine wood. And it does feel warm. It sort of does this good job of marrying a sense of warm with a sense of quickness and detail. Now, the mid-range of the GH4 does a really great job of combining a sense of spaciousness and a sense of fullness. Now, the mids do come across in a really fast way, so dynamically they feel super alive and dancey. They really kind of help contribute to the groove of songs. Now, as for the low mids and the middle part of the mid-range, they mostly feel even, and so instruments that live there come across with a sense of harmonic complexity that makes these feel really detailed, and in that region sort of have a sense of realism. However, in the high mids, it sort of breaks from that realism because the high mids are a little bit less even. There's a little bit of an emphasis there, and this sort of lack of evenness there kind of comes across as a sense of character. It's not super neutral or accurate, but it comes through, for my taste, very aesthetically pleasing. Kind of puts this, I don't know, this sort of like character on everything. Gives it this sort of flavor that I think sounds really good for a pretty wide variety of genres, although not great for those of you that want a very even response for genres like classical or something like that. The high frequencies have an emphasis in the upper treble, and as a result, the headphones really sound wonderfully detailed in regard to how it deals with texture. Now, this sort of emphasis also means that sometimes, depending on the vocal, vocals could sound a little bit sibilant, but at the same time, for many other vocals, it sort of makes it come across with more emotional impact because you can really hear the nuances of the rasp in the voice or the breath in the voice. Additionally, the high frequencies have a nice sense of air, a little bit of the emphasis in the upper octave, kind of giving just a sense of really aesthetically pleasing, but not super accurate, detail and air and lift to everything. No surprise here, but the soundstage of these headphones are wonderful. They're open back Grado headphones, after all. The sense of width is very expansive, seems to just shoot outwards. As for the sense of depth, because they're so kind of quick moving and responsive, I find that the sense of depth has a nice amount of nuance to it. And then additionally, in terms of the sense of height, I do feel a sense of nuance there. High frequency instruments really gliding up high, expansively. Middle range instruments sort of sitting more toward, the middle part of your body. The low frequencies don't dig like super deep down low, but there is a really nice contrast between where they sit and then the sparkly highs. Overall, the Grado GH4 limited edition is a super unique headphone. It really is able to marry both a sense of spaciousness with a sense of fullness. It's also able to marry a sense of harmonic complexity and sort of realism with a sense of character and sort of aesthetically pleasing, a little bit of spice there, for lack of better words. In terms of its sound signature, it definitely leans more toward clarity than toward a heavy bass, so if you want a big bass, these won't be the ones for you. Thank you all so much for watching. For another perspective on the Grado GH4, please check out the description box down below because I will leave a link to my colleague's review there. If you liked this video, if it was helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. Alright everybody, thank you, and I will see you next time. Bye.